everybody. It's so great to be here with Cameron. I mean, as you heard from before, it's like amazing experience that Cameron brings to the stage. Building 4 unicorns is no small feat, right? I loved it that when we talked about it, you told me, yeah, I did that, but I also 3 of my companies failed, right? And I was fired a few times. So it's a roller coaster, isn't it?
Yes,
so
absolutely.
So I would love for us to talk about that, about the mistakes and the things you do right to become a unicorn founder. But before that, I mean, I would love to hear from you. I mean, after all your success, why do you keep doing it? I mean, what wakes you up in the morning to say, hey, let's go for it?
Good. Well, hello everyone. Pleasure meeting you. I'm very jealous of Miguel. Look at his hair versus my hair.
That's
and you know where the real value
4
is.
less unicorns.
I used to have a lot of hair like him before that. But what gets me going is I've always been driven by impact. When I was 8 years old, I was born in Iran, and I remember when we had family gatherings or parties, I would ask my friends, my relatives, why are you just sitting around gossiping? Why don't you go and change the world? And they would say, God, you're a kid, shut up, and whatever. And when I was 18 years old, actually 17 years old, I told my parents I'm going to America, and they said, how? You are a horrible student. How can you get to America? I said, I don't know. I will find a way. And single-handedly, alone, I came over there and I had to find my way. So I always felt I had a mission in life. And I came to Silicon Valley in 1978. I was working at HP in corporate engineering. And they were very nice. They paid my way to go to Stanford. I had a few degrees in mathematics, computer science. I had a master's in computer graphics, but I knew nothing about chip design. So they paid my way to go and study chip design, and I designed the chip and it didn't work. And then I came up with an idea that maybe we can do this better way by using simulation and using computer graphics. And I proposed it to my bosses, and I said, why don't you give me a promotion and give me 4 engineers, we will do this. And they said, you're our youngest engineer. At that time, I was only 26, and they said, we do not think you're qualified. So I took 4 engineers, all older than me, and we started our first company. And the reason I did that, I felt we could really have a major impact, because at that time, there were less than 1,000 chip designers in the whole world. And I thought, why is that? Why can't we develop a computer-aided engineering system that allows you to use graphics and simulation to do the design at higher level and have 1 million chip designers be able to do this? Why should you do it at the device physics, at the transistor level, which is very complicated? So that was the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey. And at that time, 3 years later, HP wanted to buy the company for $50 million. And their competitor, we sold it to them for $75 million. So that, at that time, I wasn't even 30 years old. But while I was doing that, I learned how the world is changing. The way the world changes is what kind of tools we use. At the bottom of it is doing everything by hand. Level higher is using mechanical tools. Level higher is using electromechanical tools. Level higher is using microelectronics, chips. Level higher is using software. The highest level is algorithmic level. So I had this insight. And I said, why don't I help make this happen? And actually, if we are successful, it becomes the reverse. Very few people would do things by hand or do mechanically. The world is going to change. And that was in 1980, 46 years ago.
So if I think about that, of course, as a first-time founder, you need to be a bit naive. You need to think you can change the world. If not, you would not do it, being the youngest engineer at HP. And you had this vision of the future of the world, a contrarian vision, right? That if it's correct, then you're going to succeed, right? But sometimes, also in your career, timing was very relevant. You had the right vision, But even that was not enough, right? Could you tell us about your experience with your third company?
Yeah, the experience with I guess we talked about first company, big success. Second company was Cirrus Logic, the father of all fabless companies. So when all of a sudden you could go and design chips in 6 months rather than 2 years, 3 years. And then the third company was really interesting. We were just getting ready to take Cirrus Logic public, and it was going to be multi-billion-dollar amazing thing. And I was dreaming, and I had a crazy dream that I was reading Wall Street Journal, and in my dream, front page, the paper felt a little bit different, and in my dream there was an article about automotive industry and the ad from Japanese company, Honda. And in my dream, I went with my finger and I touched that, and that black and white picture became color video. So I woke up and I told my wife, hey, I'm going to go and design something that must be like a tablet or whatever.
That's a few years earlier than Steve Jobs.
That was 1989.
Okay.
And 18 years before iPad.
Okay.
And within 2.5 years, we made a Momenta computer. You can search it. We were on the cover of 20 magazines. I got 10 awards as the future of computing. And we thought it's going to be amazing. But it was a huge failure because so many things were not working, and we had to invent everything. We had 23 patents to design communication chips, graphics chips. We didn't have a cloud, so we had to create our own cloud. Everything we had to do from scratch. And huge failure, but $40 million spent in 2 years. So for a while, I was champion of the guy who spent the most amount of venture capital
but
and
no worries,
failed
not anymore.
in the shortest
No worries.
period. No, very quickly, other people surpassed me. So you could say, even I failed in failure. Somebody else managed to fail stronger than I did.
So then we talked about timing. You just mentioned the idea that if technology is not there yet, which is a part of timing, you need to build everything. Probably it's a bit too much for a company which is just starting, right? You should sit on top of something that you can then create some specific innovation, not everything. If you have to do the full stack, it's maybe a bit too much. And other things that I've seen as an investor that first-time entrepreneurs do is that they get in love with their product. And they just add more and more features, and they never ship. Have you seen that in your career?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I'm glad you brought this up. At Momenta Computer, because of my dream that I touched this with no keyboard, with no, nothing, no buttons, we tried to do first system have this. And imagine how surprised we were because we tried to develop all the apps, 10 applications on this. We tried to have everything working on the first time. And because we had amazing engineering team, amazing management team. I had hired Chief Operating Officer of Apple to be my Chief Operating Officer. I had hired the CFO, Seagate, to be my CFO, Vice President of Manufacturing of HP to be my VP of Manufacturing. Biggest team, most amazing thing. How could anything go wrong? Well, it did, because guess what? We shipped 5,000 units at the price of $5,000.
Yeah.
Right off the bat, without checking anything really hard, because my vice president of marketing was head of Macintosh marketing, and so we keep everything totally secret till we announce it. So, on an iPhone, when you tap on it, it wakes up immediately. On our machine, Momenta computer, you tapped on it, you had to wait 45 seconds to a minute, minute and a half, because it was based on Intel 386. And people returned it and said, this doesn't work. So first quarter revenue was 25 million, second quarter was negative 25 million. All of them come back. And I got fired. I got fired on April 1st. So imagine, you don't know till you have customers really go and tell you that. And after that, my fourth company and onward, I never ever let my engineers do anything more than a few weeks before they had to go and test it with customers, figure out whether it works or not. You love your product till your first meeting with your customer, and then you find out the customer, I guarantee you, 99% of the time, the customer says, I don't like it.
So do more meetings, ship earlier, right? And you mentioned
Very early on.
You mentioned the idea that you had all this amazing talent, you had the best ideas, or it would say, oh, ideas and talent, but there is something else there around execution, right? And I love this investor, Fred Wilson, who says that the best companies live on a heartbeat, like a rhythm, like a cadence. Things happen every week, every 2 weeks. What is the best things you've seen about instilling that cadence, that operating system into companies to succeed?
Well, first of all, you should know that there is no easy path. I'm sure many of you studied the history of Google or the history of, space, SpaceX or the history of Tesla. Yeah. All you see is this. That's bullshit. It's never like that. It's lots of ups and downs on a daily basis.
Totally.
That's the reality. And if you recognize that, you look for problems and fix them before you run out of cash. That's the most important thing. And if you say that is something that's going to happen, then it should teach you what should be your founding team. You want your founding team to have 5 characteristics. It's very important, 5 characteristics. The first one is they have to be honest. They have to come and tell you right off the bat, hey, we have a problem. We found a bug. This is not working. Customer doesn't like that. That is the most important. You don't want people who are afraid to tell you or hide it and they want to please you and say, no, everything is good. That is a killer.
Cameron, I love one thing that Claire Hugh Johnson from Stripe says is that you need to give feedback, and feedback is when people talk about a thing they feel cannot be talked about.
Yeah.
You know, that's the thing they should be talking about. They should not lie to you, and it should be this honesty, right? Yeah.
So that's the first characteristic. Second characteristic, you want smart people. I always hired people who were much smarter than me. Why? Because smart people have a big addiction. What is that addiction? They enjoy solving problems. So you give them a problem and they say, oh good, give me 2 hours, 5 hours, 1 day, I will fix it. You want super smart people who can go and find solution. Third characteristic you want to have in your team is somebody who has resilience, because you could have solution, but you may not be able to make it work first day, second day, third day. You know, Thomas Edison had the idea of the light bulb, and he knew that if you run electricity through a filament, it would light up. You think it worked first time, second time, third time, fifth time, 50 times. He stayed with it, kept experimenting till he got it to work. And you need people with resilience, with perseverance, not to give up.
Maybe to add to that, resilience or even grit, right? I love this definition of grit from Mark Andreessen, is the people that leave their shape, like a cartoon, on the walls they go through. And the shape doesn't change, they just go through the walls.
Yeah. You just have to have faith and keep working on it. And then the fourth one is teamwork. Teamwork is so important. It's better to have group of people who are a good team than a whole bunch of superstars who don't get along with each other.
Probably one thing that first-time founders take too long is to fire the assholes in the company, right? You have somebody who is amazing, technically great, but is maybe not honest, has not the right principles. Those people need to go very early on.
Or even sometimes that person is your friend.
Oh yeah.
And you just don't want to fire your friend, even though they cannot perform. And one of the best things you can do is to have an open conversation with them and say, friendship is different than business. I love you as a friend, but you are not doing right at this job. Either find another job for them and hire somebody who can do the job that they are not doing, or help them go and find a better job suited for their ability in another company. I have had, once I learned about this, before that I was always afraid to hire my friends because I didn't want to fire them. But once I learned this, I said, I will hire the best people, whether they're friends or not, and if they're friends and does not work out, I sit around and fire them, and then help them find another job that's better. So guess what? 5 years later in another company, they're good, they come back and work for you. But this fifth thing, which is very unusual, many of you may not know, is make sure in your team you have somebody who has a good sense of humor. People do not talk about that enough, because if you are in this solve problem, find problem, solve problem all the time, the pressure is too much. And if you don't want to get cancer, if you don't want to get ulcers, if you don't want to go home and have a fight with your husband or with your wife, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, or kick your dog and dog would not love you anymore, if you want to avoid that, make sure you surround yourself with people who have a sense of humor. Because the moment somebody tells a joke, we start laughing, our body generates some chemicals, and we calm down, and we say, okay, no more pressure, let us work together, find something.
You just remind me, once I said to one of our team members in one of my first companies, you know, his name was Pipe. Pipe, we have an issue, because my wife knows a lot about you. I talk too much about you at home, so we should have a love, we should enjoy what we're doing, not just be arguing all the time, right? And you mentioned one thing about this, having friends, and we see a lot as investors that you have all these co-founders, and they all are the CEO, CPO, CTO, there's nobody else, you know? Just 5 people, everybody has a CXO role, and then you want to hire somebody later, and there's no space. And that person is maybe much more experienced. So you should tell people, how do you do that? To, hey, don't worry, you're going to maybe be demoted. But it doesn't mean being demoted. It means growing with the company, right?
Yeah, it is another one of the tough things is learning how, as the company grows, its needs are different.
Totally.
And some people grow with the company, but many other people do not. And if you keep holding them on big jobs and they know it, they're failing on a daily basis, sooner or later, either they will hate you and leave, or you will hate them and say, God, why are you so incompetent? The best way is to understand what abilities of people are. And some people are very good at individual accomplishment. And at the beginning, you know, everybody does everything. So you give them a title of, okay, you also do, say, engineering management. And then you find out they don't like to talk to people. They don't like to work on milestones and achieving KPIs, all of that. And why are you torturing them? And you keep pushing them and saying, oh, you didn't give me a status report. What is it that needs to work out? That is not good for them, and it's not good for the company. So if you say, hey, I understand you are very good, but you can't be our head of engineering. You can't be our VP. Maybe don't, you know, make them feel bad. You could give them a title of, you know, head of research or head of investigative future technologies as an individual person, or champion individual contributor. You can give them a nice thing so they don't lose face if they care. Some of them, they say, hey, I don't need any title. Just let me do.
And you need to be clear about what you're going to be doing, right?
Yeah,
Be honest conversation and move on. No, absolutely. I mean, we talked about the first mistakes that entrepreneurs do, but you've done this 10 times. What is the mistake that you keep on repeating? Is there something that you're, oh, I did this again, I should not, I knew I shouldn't, but I cannot help it?
I can't really think
No?
of one because
You don't do
I'm reasonably good.
You find
at-
new mistakes all the time.
I find my mistakes and I'm humble. I know that I'm not God and I'm a regular human being. I'm not very smart and I make mistakes. And what I do is I try not to make the same mistakes. Trust me, I do many other mistakes, but I do not make the same
You don't
mistake
repeat, you don't repeat.
over and over. I just change. I'm very flexible. And one of the key things on, in my opinion, on success, repeated success, is do not get impressed by yourself. You know, in Silicon Valley, we have this thing that when people have a success, they create a unicorn company. They put license plate. They go and buy a fancy car, a Ferrari, a Porsche, a Rolls Royce, and put their big success on their license plate. For many, many years, over 20 years, do you know what was my license plate? My biggest failure, Momenta computer. My license plate was computer. Why? Because as I came every day to drive my Ferrari, I would look at that and I would say, I don't know much. I really need to go and learn more.
It helps that you are driving the Ferrari, right? I mean, okay, the Ferrari, okay, modern, Ferrari. So it's a good combination of both, right?
Yeah, but you know, in Silicon Valley, many people have Ferrari and many people have successful things.
Yeah.
But few people openly learn from their mistakes and openly talk about it. I remember in 2000, after the dot-bomb, you know, dot-com became dot-bomb,
Yeah.
the huge explosion of dot-com era. Stanford, I'm alumni of Stanford, so every now and then they would ask me to go and talk about lessons, what I've got and whatever. I got so many requests from many different departments, different professors. Would you please come and talk about how to recover from failure? Because so many startups were failing in 2000, 2001. And people just were confused. They didn't know what to do. But I had suffered for a year after failure of Momenta. I knew all the pain, all the things, because regardless of how many successes you have had, failure is always painful. However, if you learn something from it, then your next failure will be different. And hopefully, as you get better and better and better, you learn how to make fewer mistakes. But you don't want to avoid failure because that says you are becoming too conservative. That's a very key thing. If you are not failing, it says you are not pushing the boundaries hard enough. And your competition will push boundary and get ahead of you.
And it's been super interesting, and maybe we're nearing the time, but just maybe a last question for you, thinking about the AI era, everything changes. You have lived through all these cycles. Any last piece of advice for people building now?
Absolutely. You know, after 23 years, I've become an entrepreneur. 2 years ago, I started Innovera.ai, and my look at it is AI is full of new growth areas for big companies, and majority of companies do not know that. They zero in on efficiency and how to fire their employees and replace them with agents. My company, we created this simulation engine that if you don't have an idea what to do, it gives you 100 ideas, and you can simulate all of them and figure out what are the new growth areas based on how much money you want to put in, how many people you have, how much IP you have, how much know-how you have to leverage it. And look at 1 billion different paths, all simultaneously in real time. It's the same way as, Demis Sobbis did the folding of the proteins. You look at billions of paths, you look at so many things, and then you simulate and you come up with answers.
So focus on creation, not just efficiency.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So I think we are out of time, so thank you so much for sharing with us, Cameron. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, everyone. Love you all. See you.